Our lesson today, if you see the written version on my Facebook page, you'll look at it and just go, it's so long, it's so big. There are huge sections that are actually the text gospels that are referenced. But the reason why I've chosen this today is these very gospels we have had all in the past 10 days. For instance, 6 inches down, it references the 7 maledictions hurled by Jesus at the scribes and Pharisees. And it says, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites." Gosh, does that sound familiar? And then it goes on and it talks about some silly bridesmaids. Gosh, that sounds really familiar too. And it has last Sunday's gospel. It has the gospels all of this week. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of last week. All are in this lesson. So, but there's no reason to reread all of those. Okay? So it opens. St. John Paul II launched a heartfelt appeal that the church might make mercy of God better known. He says, "It is a mercy which humanity and the modern world need so much. And they need mercy even though they often do not realize it. In fact, the present-day mentality, more perhaps than that of people in the past, seems opposed to a God of mercy, and in fact, tends to exclude from life and to remove from the human heart the very idea of mercy." Pope Francis, following in the footsteps of the Second Vatican II and of all his predecessors, forcefully affirmed this is a time of mercy in his apostolic letter, Misericordia et Misere, 2016. He then opened the door of mercy. I went to the Vatican to enter the St. Peter's Cathedral via that door. It was proclaimed with passion, which fills the hearts of many people with joy, but does not fail to arouse in some, even within the Church, doubts and perplexity, if not open hostility. We find ourselves in the same situation described by the Gospel 2,000 years ago. Mercy becomes a nice but empty word for those who feel they have no need of it. A word that is inimical to so much of our justice, that knows only how to accuse and condemn in a summary fashion. The justice of God, on the other hand, saves. For Benedict XVI, mercy is the central nucleus of the gospel message. It is the very name of God, the face with which he revealed himself in the Old Covenant, and fully in Jesus Christ, the incarnation of creative and redemptive love. The evangelists tell us that the first to oppose Jesus were the scribes and Pharisees, who could not bear to see Jesus behaving mercifully toward even the most notorious and despised sinners, while treating so harshly those who considered themselves to be just, to be true observers and defenders of the law handed down by the fathers, who themselves had, nonetheless, already spoken of the merciful and gracious God. But they could only see God as a judge and chastiser of sinners, the others. And they accused Jesus of transgressing the law, of blaspheming, and even of being a demonic. Their rage is understandable. They believed that they were righteous and felt that they were being harshly criticized. They thought that they were defending God, and God corrected them with very harsh words. But the harshest words were the 7 maledictions hurled by Jesus at the scribes and the Pharisees, which were in 2 Gospels that we read just this week. The hypocrites and blind fools' gospels. Just Thursday, we had the gospel where the scribes and Pharisees asked Jesus why his disciples transgressed the tradition of the ancients about cleaning. And this is where Jesus told them once again what hypocrites they were. Well did Isaiah prophesy you when he said, "This people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines the precepts of men." And then there were the 10 bridesmaids, 5 who left to go buy the oil. The words that Jesus promises to address to some who consider themselves believers, but are also not. They come to me saying, "Lord, Lord," and they believe that they shall enter the kingdom. But on that day, I shall say to them, "I never knew you. Depart from me, you evildoers." At that time, very detailed religious norms had accumulated, which could provide security, but had lost what was essential. Jesus, who was criticized by the Pharisees because he ate with publicans and sinners, says, "Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice. For I came not to call the righteous, but the sinners." And then just last Sunday's gospel, the Pharisees were accustomed to asking Jesus trick questions, so he would have to answer yes or no with his back against the wall. But at other times, they would simply test him. To one of them, he had asked about the greatest commandment of the law, and Jesus clearly revealed that the essence of Christianity is charity. We know that we will be judged on love, and we already know the questions for the examination of the final judgment. They are the works of mercy. And this is what you will find in my oft cited Matthew 25:31-46. Distant examples of charity for neighbors. Our perennial temptation is to cage Jesus in our own schemes. But he goes beyond them, as the parable of the Good Samaritan reminds us. A man considered a heretic performs an act of charity, unlike the priest and the Levite, who see a man left half dead by bandits, but do not intervene. The Samaritan, the man from the hated group, the hated class, has compassion. He stops and cares for that man. God's judgment is different from our judgments. Jesus has words of greater esteem for 2 apparently distant people who approached him not for themselves, but for the healing of a daughter and a servant. To the Canaanite woman, the gospel of last week, "O woman, great is your faith." And then to the centurion, he says, "Truly I say to you, not even in Israel have I found such faith." Because love overcomes all barriers and all labels. No one likes to be called a Pharisee, but inside each of us there is a doctor of the law who judges our neighbors and thinks him or herself better than the publican on duty. As the famous parable in Luke tells us, we need to be corrected sometimes, even to be strongly shaken in our harshness. Jesus says to all of us, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. The justice of Jesus is the mercy that comes to love the enemy. The justice of Jesus is salvation. The Lord in the gospel invites us to read the signs of the times in order to know when he will come. With the latest council, the Church has continued her journey in understanding the truth of God's mercy. Pope Francis continues to travel along this path, as pointed out by St. John Paul II. Apart from the mercy of God, there is no other source of hope for mankind.